back, everybody. It's another episode of The Business Therapist. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, and I'm here with your host, Arnell Tanyag. Hello, Arnell.
Hello, Chris. I'm ready to help some people today. Let's get going, man.
Yeah, man. Let's do it. Well, we're talking about there's a huge, massive problem that I personally have, and I've noticed it in all sorts of entrepreneurs, and that is the problem of patience. One of the things I think we keep bumping up against is we want everything yesterday. And if we don't get it fast enough, then we'll like abandon all plans and we'll go buy something that wasn't on plan or go try something new just because we're impatient. So how do you see this? Do you see impatience come up at all when you're working with clients? And
to answer that question, there's two types of clients you see impatience in. Ones who were patient in the beginning and they have a plan and I'm doing it, but the plan goes out the door. And they're like, okay, what do I do now? And then they'll look for the quickest thing to get there. And then they become impatient. Or the other end, I've seen people who are not patient at all. And they just keep getting the fix. You know, they keep getting a new toy or a new thing. And you're like, I want to try this. I want to try this. I'll try this. Right. Or not try. I'm like, yep. How do you know if it works or not?
I can totally relate to that. Yeah. Right. Well, because I tried it a couple of times and it didn't work.
Yeah, you know, Chris, you find two extremes: one who tries a lot, and one who doesn't try a lot. And there's two forms of impatient.
Right.
You know, and I think it becomes impatient, becomes frustration.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
That's so true. I think too. I mean, if we look at like anything substantial in life, like we could use relationships for a good example. Relationships take time. They take patience.
That's correct.
Some people you hit it off with faster than others, but even then, real relationships take time.
That's correct.
Why are we in this, from your perspective, why are we in this day and age of like the immediate gratification?
I think because we believe that we have to have it now. And I think we believe we earned it. You know, and I also think we believe that, okay, I'm doing all this work. When am I going to get it? You know,
right.
like, because people are like, I'm putting the work in now. I'm working. And they're like, I should get it now. I'm like, well, that's true in some sense, but not always true in others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like some ways when there's been enough Facebook ads now for business people where we'll see like, oh, we could 10x our growth in 30 days or 5 minutes or what was you can't have 6-minute abs. He's like, I'm going to do 5-minute abs or.
Isn't it great? You see that it's a lot of great marketing. They get you in this belief like, okay, I get you there. And then they don't tell you it's really hard work. Yeah. And I think people are impatient because I'm doing the work and I believe I'm doing the hard work, but is it the right work? Yeah. Is it the right work? And so what eventually happens is I think people are impatient because they're already believing I'm doing the right work, but it isn't getting what I'm getting. So do I go buy a tool? Do I go hire a person?
Right.
And then, you know, I think people have the ability, they want help. And they're patient to see how it happens. But then when it doesn't work out, they're impatient now. Like, look, I've been doing this for a while. What do I do? Or then you have the other extreme, like, okay, I'm patient for it to show up. Like, what does that mean? It's like, I don't want to spend any money. I don't want to do anything. I'm like, then what? You know, like, what are you doing? You know, crazy.
That's funny too because I think let's just use patient. We'll put some practicality that's like patience as it relates to social media. Social media is very popular right now. A lot of people are looking at social media for ways to grow their business, and they'll do a couple posts, and then nothing happens, or maybe they even do posts for a year, and nothing happens. But I think you have to go back to last episode for perspective. Like, what's the perspective do you have perspective on how to do social media in a way that's going to produce a result? Or are you just posting pictures of your lunch? Or are you always posting pictures about people hiring you and going straight to the sale? Like, there's a way to do social media. And not only does it take patience in application, like how you post, it takes patience in actually learning how to do it effectively. So you have to learn it, which takes time, and then you have to do it, which takes time. And if you really go into social media, sorry, I'm on a soapbox here.
No, it's true.
Like, you have to test, and you test some more, because what worked yesterday doesn't always work today in the landscape of social media. So testing even takes patience.
Yeah, right. And I see, like, in my area, I see a lot of people doing social media training. They're like, and I'm thinking, oh man, people are going to get burned.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Because they're going to spend it, because they're like, okay, they they're 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 impatient because they know everyone's been telling them, social media, social media. I need to get social media. So I see these people in the area doing social media training. I'm like, oh my God, I hope people don't sign up for that because they're impatient. Now they get somebody to tell them to do this, and they're going to sell them this program for a campaign for 90 days.
Yeah.
You know, and then like, okay, now what do I do? And then you got to hire the person again. You know,
Right.
and then what kind of results you get? And I tell somebody else, what do you think? I mean, I said, look, unless they can show how they generated income from that campaign,
Right.
at previous successes, I mean, you're wasting your money. I think you got sold on a dream that's going to happen because I think we want to get there fast.
Right. Right.
Without having to work hard.
Without having to do the work. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Right. Here's another example. People will hire somebody, they'll bring somebody into their business, and if they don't read their mind, overnight, then they're not patient in the training. Like, again, it's a training process. Even the hiring process can take time if you do it right. And most people don't have even patience for the hiring process, let alone the training process.
You're right. I was reading an article where they say, if you're a small business and you have great people, but you want them to be a working manager, so they're doing their role and they have to manage the process of people. They say you'll burn out people because you don't spend any time training them, investing in them. You're impatient because you think they have to do the tasks in that role, but they also have to manage the process of other people, and you basically burn them out. You know,
right?
You basically just burn them out, and it's crazy because you go, what did I do wrong? And really, you didn't realize that you just weren't patient. You wanted the results quick and fast, and then you're like, oh my God, that person's upset with me. I'm not getting the results, and I'm like, well, what do we do from there?
Yeah, totally. I think another area that you are super skilled at helping people in is processes.
That's correct.
Right. So we've talked about process mapping before.
Yes.
And all of a sudden now people are like, oh, I really need to stabilize my business.
That's right.
And so then the minute they have to sit down and start to create processes, they're not patient. They get impatient with that. And they're like, well, I'll just go back to winging it.
You're right. I actually had a real estate agent. She's doing really busy. She goes, look, I want to hire an assistant and stuff like that. I said, okay. I showed this video on how to make a cake. This process on how to make a cake. She goes, okay, see the video? All right, I need you to write down your non-negotiables. Like, what do you mean I got to write it down, Arnell? I'm like, well, if you don't write it down, how are we going to be able? If I was working for you, you didn't write it down, and you're telling me, and you expect me to figure it out. Yeah. I said, what I'm thinking, like, okay, I get it. You want this done, but I'm thinking in my mind, you're just impatient of really sitting there and training. And then if I don't get it right the first, second, or third time, you're probably going to fire me, or our relationship's changing.
Right.
Because I think owners are patient in the beginning when they first start, but when they can't get what they want, or they can't see it turning around, or they lose patience.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I think you're right. Like if I see something new, like a new project, a new initiative, a new goal, in the beginning, and this is, I think, how entrepreneurs are wired. We're great at starting things. We're not great at finishing things. So like we start with all the patience in the world and all the patience in the world for a week or a month or how long, like as long as our interest is still engaged, we're like, ooh, I'm learning and it's exciting. And and then we get to a tipping point where we're like, I'm bored. This isn't producing the result I thought. I don't know if I don't want to keep doing this, whatever. And then that's where I think the wheels start to fall off.
Yeah, and you came a good idea. I've seen some business owners, they are impatient when they have to do the boring stuff with the business. And they're like, what is that, Arnie? I'm like, well, the boring stuff is, you got to work on the business. I mean, you got to take some time, write the process. You got to take some time looking for bigger opportunities, take some time to look for people to hire. Like, oh, that's really boring. I said, well, and I was telling somebody, I said, and they're like, I told them, you'll laugh about this, Chris. I said, you want to make your business boring so you have your lifestyle fun. And that basically means you got to be very patient of doing these things that doesn't make you money.
Yeah.
And they're like, what does that mean? I mean, you got to take a weekend and write out your process, take a weekend and look at your dreams. I mean, really start thinking about how to get out of the day to day, because if you don't, you're going to live it in the day to day in your business. And I think they're impatient of focusing on important and just letting the urgent control them. Yeah. And I think they have to wait till they get to a point where they're like struggling to make that. And then when you're struggling, it's really hard to put all that stuff together.
Right.
I mean, I have some people that it just takes a while for them to get moving.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because they were moving really fast and it was going really good. Like I had this one person who was a client who was a roofer. She said, Arnell, we did $1 million in business. I had an office person. I had a salesperson. They were just doing phenomenal. And then we kind of let my thumb off the business, let it run itself. And then lo and behold, a year later, it went to $1 million to like maybe a couple 100,000. I woke up and I couldn't figure out what happened.
Wow.
Now, and she was saying, now I'm like, have to redo the whole thing. And I'm impatient because I want it now. And I don't know why we have to go back and look at my schedule. And it's like, oh my God, it's like, I'm starting from scratch again, and so what happened? So I realized when it was doing so well, I let it go. I wasn't actively involved. Now I'm like impatient because I want to get there. Now I'm struggling trying to get there. And I was like, I said, you have to be very patient because you're redoing it differently.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the hardest thing with owners. If they've been tasted success before, they're very impatient to redo it.
Right.
Because they almost felt they had it there. Why did I mess up?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how you've heard the saying, how you do anything is how you do everything.
That's correct.
Have you heard that?
Yes, I've heard that before.
I think about this, and I can say it's true for me. If I think about I'm impatient in all areas of my life, right? And not just in business, but in my fitness. I wanted abs yesterday, and if I think about my relationships, I want them to be amazing today.
Yes.
I just think I think if we look at, for entrepreneurs, one of the places we get to grow is in flexing the muscle of patience.
Yes.
And I think when we do that, we already have the whole hustle thing down. That's our wheelhouse. But the patience thing, I think, is the thing that takes us to the next level, where we get to start to hang out with a higher caliber set of people who have already been there and learned that lesson. When you learn the lesson of patience. Yeah,
because I've seen people who are very successful, and they, how they always say, "I'm just very patient. I keep doing the things that are effective every day, every week, every month. I'm patient because eventually, it's the consistency, the grit, and it will pay itself forward."
Right.
And I have a plan. I stick to it. I stick to it. Yeah. I make changes. I stick to it. And then it all falls into place. And man, I'm just blown away. Then I have some people they're so impatient because they're just so well, when is it going to come?
Right.
I got this one client goes, Arnell, when's it going to come? I'm just struggling because it's just not coming. I said, well, you're creating a software program. You got to get a number target. It may take a year. He goes, oh, and I was talking about your personality is all about wins. You just can't see the win. He goes, I'm just impatient. I just want to see it going, this and that. And I said, the beauty of this is that at least you're self-aware about it. Now you just got to be patient enough to keep doing the activity.
Yeah.
And then when it all falls into place, you'll be successful, because a lot of people quit before you even get started, or they quit right at the tipping point where it's going to break through.
Yeah.
Right.
That's totally it. That's totally it. How many people have stopped because they got impatient and before their breakthrough, they would have had a breakthrough. I mean, how many people, I think Gary Vaynerchuk definitely said it. Others have said it too, but where we talk about the overnight success story that took 10 years, it was 10 years and we only saw them in the last year. We're like, where did this person come from? But they've been working for 10 years.
Oh, I know.
Working their plan. And then boom, they have huge success, and we all take notice, and we thought it was this overnight thing. And then we try to recreate it as an overnight thing, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's why I think people get sold on get this thing, 10x, 90 days, this and that. And then I think people don't want to hear it's a long-term play.
Right.
People just want to hear a short-term
play. It's not sexy. Long-term plays are not what people want to hear.
And I think I think you can grow I think you grow and sustain long-term.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Of course. And I think too, that people who, if you've been around the block long enough, you'll start to realize that it's naive to think you can do an overnight success. You'll start to realize that there's wisdom and maturity in patience.
That's
right.
Correct.
And if you hear that and you think, no, that's lame, then you just haven't matured to that place in life yet, because you will get to a place where you're like, oh yeah, no, I get it. It takes work. Now, that being said, I think patience is nurtured in a relationship with somebody like a coach, because I think oftentimes we sabotage ourselves. And when you're in conversation with a coach like you, who can play devil's advocate or ask questions, like, let's say I want to change my mind. I'm like, hey, I want to change my strategy. I can share that with you, and you can help me see if that's a good idea or a bad idea, rather than just being impulsive. Yeah.
Yes. And I think the hardest thing is I think we all know we want to get to a place.
Right.
I think the challenging thing is we don't know what it looks like, and we don't know how long would it take. And our meter of patience was here when we started, but then when the business grows, it shrinks. I think it's like a rubber band. I hate to say it, it's how we feel, you know? And I tell people that, look, if you really believe in what you're doing, it's important work, it's a calling, then I think the biggest thing what you have to learn is being patient about the process. It doesn't mean you don't adapt, doesn't mean you don't have ups and downs. It just means that you're looking for those wins, and you're building your plan for the future. And as long as and I think what happens when people have somebody that can talk about, I think they're if they're in the right frame of mind and the right support, I believe they are patient if they have that frame of mind and right support where they basically can talk it out. Because I think what's happened is where people lose patience when they see failure often. And they don't understand. I was telling them, failure is a good launching pad to success. It's just that you may fail for several years trying to figure it out, but if you keep moving toward it and you really believe in it, eventually it all falls right in place. I think what happens is we don't see it that way.
It's good when you have a coach to help you learn the learning lessons of the failure. Because if you just keep failing and you're not learning from it, then no wonder it's frustrating, and no wonder you get impatient, and no wonder you try to just whatever the next fling is. But when you have somebody to process the failure with, to see the wins in it and to see the lessons in it, I think to your point, like, you get there a lot faster. You will get there faster.
Yeah, and I think you got a good point. I think patience, we become impatient when we just see it as an event with no meaning. I think when you start seeing lessons, you start learning from it and learning that it builds a foundation of and that's the foundation of wisdom, knowing that, okay, here's what didn't work, here's what I need to do. And I think when you have people that understand that there's not a clear answer, there's an answer that you keep looking for, and you may fail 9 out of 10. That one time it all falls in place. And I think that's the biggest struggle when you grow in a business, is that the feeling of you're always going to be impatient, but you're going to be impatient looking for the right thing to pop versus being impatient because you're so frustrated. And why doesn't it pop today?
Right. Yeah, totally. That's really good. I love it. Well, this is the kind of work that you do with clients, like the consulting, helping them learn the lessons from failures, helping them stay the course when they get antsy and impatient. How do people reach out to you to kind of help, to have you help them?
Yeah, they can just go to my website, which is www.tanyag.net, or call me, office 757-752-8169. And then we'll just sit down and at least talk on the phone for 30 minutes and see what you're patient or not patient about, and then see if we can help you. Yeah?
Totally. So good. Arnell, thanks, man. Good episode today. Until next time, take care.
All right. Thanks, Ed.